Heather says, wow, Toronto Star, a new low, shameless propaganda. Forgive. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you're talking to? And this is the Toronto Star headline. This is anti-vaxxer hate being fostered by the mainstream media. It says, the unvaccinated cherish their freedom to harm others. What? That seems shoehorned in there, the Toronto Star. How can we ever forgive them? What? Yes, the unvaccinated, our freedom to harm others. That's such an interesting inversion, interpretation, bastardization of there. I mean, if there was a shred of truth in that, the sentence would end at freedom. The unvaccinated cherish their freedom, right? But adding to harm others perverts the sentence so much that it's useless and just naked propaganda, right? Blame those people. They're to blame. It's the politicians. I want to be very clear here who is to blame. It's the politicians and the medical officers of health. And what I would like done about that is for everyone to get into a courtroom and those people to be sworn in and say, what did you know? When did you know it? Give us specifics. And until you do, you're not allowed to leave type deal. Maybe not the courtroom. We've got, showers and things like that, right? But accountability is fundamentally what I want, right? If these people acted in good faith, show us the data. Why did you think that you needed to do that, right? The models are public and they were terribly wrong, right? They're locking us down for modeling and maybes. And they're setting precedent in law as well. In Australia, they deported the tennis player. I'm terrible with his name, so I'm just going to call him the tennis player. But it's incredible. It's incredible perversion at this point. It's wild. Okay. Here is Dr. Tam. For 2 years, we've watched Dr. Tam reading from a script with zero criticism from our opposition for the absolute failure. Below is a perfect example of how CBC is state propaganda. The numbers don't lie. They're the minority. Views, 50,000. Likes, 179. Comments turned off, right? And it's not unbelievable. Nobody believes these people because they're not pushing a believable story at this point in time. 2 years in and we just need 2 more weeks to flatten the curve. How are we still tolerating this? I think, and what I mean as well, during the event last night, and it was really, really good to chat with people, but people were saying, what can we do? And I was saying that protesting doesn't seem to be working, right? Using the maze analogy, and saying that we need to get creative. And they were saying, what do we do? And I said, well, it doesn't seem ego works. It doesn't seem money works because money is no object to these people. They'll use money to buy off anybody they can, right? So what are some pain points we can use to put pressure on the government to make them hear that we don't want to do what they're saying that we want to do, regardless of what the polls say or what they think, right? At this point in time, protests don't seem to be working. They're ignoring it. But I've been saying that for a long time, right? The Gilets Jaunes, the yellow vests in France, the United We Roll campaign, they used those protests against the protesters every time. Every single time they justified it by saying they're right wing, they're fringe, they're this, they're that. I don't think that's true, right? The people that I'm meeting are not crazy right-wing people who are fringe, right? They're people who are waking up to the massive lies that have been told to us and fed to us as truth. So if that's wrong, well, why is it right to silence people who are asking honest questions? Why is that right? Why is that the thing that governments are supposed to be doing right now? I don't think it is. But that's what they are doing. Here's CTV News yesterday as well at the event. I was using Joe Rogan as somebody whose head they're now coming for, right? They're trying to discredit him like they discredited Dr. Malone, like they discredited Byron Bridle, like they discredited Alex Jones, right? So now they're coming for Joe Rogan because he dares to ask intelligent questions, and he doesn't give you the conclusion. He gives you the tools to realize they're lying. That's what's going on. He's not saying they're lying. He's saying, well, hold on a second. 2 months ago, Fauci said this, and now they're saying this. How does that make any sense? In that action alone, you are now responsible for finding the truth, right? Not him. He's just saying, how does that make sense? That doesn't make sense to me. That sounds crazy, right? And the only logical conclusion is they're not telling you the truth. So, and I mean, not to give you the conclusion, but the reason the news is now trying to vilify him is because that's the conclusion most people are coming to. It's like, you're not telling us what's actually going on here, right? And we're not having any of it. And so the news is putting out reports like this. CTV Toronto says, Joe Rogan, the host of the most listened to podcast on Spotify, is being accused of being a menace to the public health for repeating falsehoods about COVID-19. How dare he ask questions? How dare he have the inventor of the mRNA vaccine? And I'll show you, I suppose I can just show you right now, the Dr. Malone. He was on Fox News, and Alex Brenson directly calls Dr. Malone a liar to his face and says that he didn't invent the mRNA vaccines. He says invent the RNA vaccines. Unprofessional, rude, and an arsehole to boot, he says. And so then he shows the patents that were filed in 1989 by him. So he basically proves this person to be Alex Brenson, controlled opposition. Very interesting. I'm using him in a later tab as well. So if he's controlled opposition, interesting. How deep does this go, right? You think the good guy is the good guy until not so much anymore, right? Okay. Hold on. Yeah, Joe Rogan. So fundamentally, if somebody tells the truth, then they need to be destroyed. If somebody gives you the tools to start looking for the truth or even to question the narrative, they have to be destroyed, silenced, removed, right? And I'll show you that's the reason they deported the tennis star. Exactly the same thing. It's incredible what is happening. And again, how do you push back? To push back, we need something effective. We need to be able to push back at a point, on a pain point for them where they're going to listen. And I don't know what that is. So I don't know.